And I think that was like an identity thing too, because at the time, again, I was like the only Asian kid in a white school, and I needed like something to make me feel better about myself. So I was like, I need to work with producers so I can like get myself out there. So I was just like researching through SoundCloud, like smaller producers that I could reach out to and collab with. That's also how I found Sylo.
But actually early on you were like in the car with like Steve, and he said, but you have to reach some sort of like
so we were at my grandma's house in Newport actually in like 2014 or 15, and it was one of the songs that I wrote with that girl from Nashville.
Oh.
And I was like, listen to the song, because it was like the first thing I ever did ever.
Hi, this is Lauren Engel of Sidewalk Talk. Today I'm here with Yumi.
Hello.
So were you born in California or?
I was actually born in New Jersey, in like a super small town. And then we lived there for like 7 years, then moved to Maryland, and then moved to California.
Was it for your parents' job to be in New Jersey, or what was it?
Most of my dad's side of the family is in New Jersey. So we were living there for them, but also because my parents met in New York. They both met in Manhattan, so they're kind of staying close to family and wanting to be close to the city. Yeah.
And wait, so what does your dad do?
So he's in IT, but at one point he was trying to be in music as well.
Oh, yeah. Like as a singer or more behind the scenes?
I think he wanted to do production and then maybe be a music lawyer. He wanted to like dabble in a bunch of different things.
And then your grandma and your mom were both models.
Yeah.
That must have been so, like your grandma was a model. It must have been like one of the like early people got into it. Wow.
My grandma's a hot grandma. Yeah, my grandma was a model when she was like 21, maybe. And then she worked for Benihana for a while, and then she was like a housewife. But then my mom kind of had the same plan, I guess. Yeah, now she's a therapist. Yeah.
And so your mom's Asian or?
Yeah, so my mom's 100% Japanese, and then my dad is white. Mixed baby. Mixed baby.
Actually, growing up, did you have like identity problems? I asked a lot of Eurasians, and a lot of them actually do. Yeah.
I was actually just talking about this with my friend who's half Persian, half Latina, because we were talking about how like you kind of feel like you don't belong to either fully. Like you can't relate to someone who's like fully Japanese or fully white. You can only relate to like half Asians.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think for sure. And then I grew up in like an all-white area in middle school, so I felt like undesirable and kind of out of place.
How big was your Japanese upbringing? Like, did you learn a lot about the culture and food growing up, or did your mom not really?
I think she would teach us things here and there. I think it was more through like media. Like I would watch Hayao Miyazaki films instead of Disney movies.
Oh, that's cool.
Like instead of Cinderella, I'd see like Totoro.
I love Totoro.
I know. Yeah, and Totoro's still going strong. Like every Asian bookstore you walk into, there's like a whole wall dedicated to Totoro. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
And your dad was playing a lot of R&B in the house, right?
Yeah, so he always loved house and R&B, and then my mom always loved like Smashing Pumpkins and U2. So we kind of got like a good blend, but I always leaned towards my dad's side.
Did you know from the onset that you wanted to be in music?
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't, I think like my dad playing music influenced me a lot, but I just always remember that desire was always there. Yeah.
But you were already songwriting when you were 12, right? Or at least like trying to...
I started singing lessons when I was 12. Like I wanted to get started on that at that age, but then I started writing when I was 16.
But then you were doing singing lessons for like 2 years, but you realized you weren't improving, right? You had to do your airflow.
Yeah, so I was doing singing lessons, and my singing teacher would be like, sing from your gut, you're singing out of your nose. And I'm like, no, I'm not, I promise. But my adenoids were enlarged, so they were blocking my breathing. And even now, like without them in my nose, like I still have like the stuffy nose way often than not, but once I got my tonsils and my adenoids removed, like all the singing lessons applied.
Yeah, wow.
And I was able to sing properly, but before I couldn't because like my whole voice was just nasally.
So with modeling and stuff, was that kind of something that your mom wanted you to do? Because you were so young, you probably didn't even know. Like back then with like being a curve model, I'm like, you must have been one of the first ones.
Yeah, well, so the industry wasn't like existent at that time. And my parents and like people in my family were always in the industry, but it wasn't something they forced upon me. Like it was something I wanted to do in middle school because I wanted to be cool. And I think that was like an identity thing too, because at the time, again, I was like the only Asian kid in a white school, and I needed like something to make me feel better about myself. But then when we moved to California, it became like a more serious thing for me because I went through this like body confidence journey.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about that. Like, at what age were you kind of insecure? Or, like, when did it start to hit you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think, like, as a girl, you go through this process of, like, you stop playing with Bratz dolls and, like, that innocence is, like, taken away from you, like, in the beginning of middle school, where, like, you start caring more about clothes and, like, what boys think, and, like, boys don't have cooties anymore. Like, you want them to like you, and I think that that was, like, when I started being insecure because I was also the tallest girl in the class. And my body was like maturing way faster than everyone else's. Like all my friends were tiny blonde girls that got all the attention, and I'm like this big boned like 5'9" Asian girl in middle school, like being 12. Shopping at the women's section in Target. Well, everyone's at like Limited Too at Hollister. Yeah. So around 12.
And did your mom realize that early on and like teach you how to overcome it kind of?
I think like the self-love, like loving your body and like embracing yourself, I think it's always been around in different cultures, but it's really strong now more than ever. Like my mom would always tell me that I'm beautiful, but it wasn't like the talks that I have with my friends now. And that's not necessarily my mom's fault. She was never brought, like the Japanese culture is not like, love yourself, like Asian it doesn't matter if you're a size 14, you know, they're like, you should stop eating after one meal, you know.
They still give you food, you're like, you're not even full yet.
I know, it's so confusing. You're like, oh wow, you gained weight, like did you eat your sister? It's like so like body shaming, that culture. So it's like, I think, you know, it wasn't her fault that she wasn't like, you know, it's okay, like embrace your curves. It was like the culture she was brought up in didn't teach her that that was okay.
Do you think early on modeling helped with your self-confidence with your body and stuff? No. It was the opposite.
Gosh, no. No, it's I mean, the plus industry wasn't like existent at that time. And you know, Instagram has a lot of highs and lows, but there wasn't like any movements really for me to be a part of. So
but this is before Instagram, right?
Yeah. So like, but like Instagram helped me a lot because I would be able to follow these women that are like, look at my like cellulite hanging out, and look at this, and you know, they would leave these like long sometimes they'd make videos. So like Instagram was a way that I discovered people like that, but like I didn't have that earlier on. So I was like dealing with high school pressure to be smaller and to look like the beauty standard of like high school girls at the time, which is like size 2 and like skinny and blonde, and then also trying to be a working plus size model, which is like minimum size 12. I was like a size 10 back then, so I was like, I want to be smaller, I want to be bigger, I don't know who I am.
How were you juggling it? Like, were you skipping school or?
I wasn't really working at the time because the industry didn't have a flexible sample size. So I was never big enough to work at the time. So it was mainly like I would sign myself out of school to go to auditions all the time, but I would never get them.
Like or you mean castings?
For castings,
okay.
yeah. But like sometimes like commercial auditions,
oh,
because
right.
I was like at a good size to book those. So I would leave school a lot, like sophomore and junior year, and then I tested out senior year.
And were your parents supportive of you like doing all this modeling at a young age? Like you skipped school and stuff? Or they didn't know, I guess.
No, well my mom and dad are like supportive as long as I go to college. Like college was like their only request from me. And I was gonna go to community college to save money anyways, so they were supportive of me testing out. As long as I go to college.
Yeah.
And then I'm in online school now, so I'm like fulfilling.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Actually, then why did you decide to stay in modeling if it was kind of difficult? Like,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
yourself?
that's a good question too. I think, I don't know, I was like holding on to the title. And now the title has a completely different meaning to me. I feel like it's a platform for me now, but before it was kind of like identity thing. Like I wanted the title, even like I didn't even want the job.
Do you think people started to treat you differently?
I think it's like, now being a model is like not impressive. Like you could just like be an Instagram model and it's like, oh, I'm a model, you know?
Different to be signed though, I feel. Or I don't know back then.
There's so
at least now, yeah.
There's so many boutique agencies now, and I'm happy that like anyone could be a model because people need to see themselves in a campaign. Like there needs to be a big range of people. But back then there wasn't a big range of people. So I think back then I was like holding on to the title of being a model, but then I left the industry actually because I couldn't take the pressure anymore of like high school being too big or too big, and then for modeling being too small, and I just needed to breathe because like the standards of both were crushing me.
Yeah. And actually, how are you related to Devon? Like she's your aunt, but how is it related?
Yeah, so she's my mom's half sister.
Oh, okay.
So my grandpa had 3 kids with my grandma, including my mom and Steven.
Yeah.
And then my grandpa had 3 kids with another woman, including Devon.
Did she help you with your modeling, like because she's also like not also the industry standard kind of?
Yeah, so she's like 5'5".
Yeah.
She was actually in New York modeling, or I think in LA doing movies at the time, so she didn't have like a direct impact on my career, but I was like inspired because she's a 5'5", I think, or like a shorter model in the industry at a time when they didn't accept that height. So like I was inspired by her too, in the sense that I could do what's like not acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you describe yourself like back then growing up?
I think like I have the same heart, like I have the same sense of humor, but I think that I was super obsessed with what people thought about me, and also like very insecure because of that.
Were you like good at school, or you just kind of wanted to get it over and done with?
I've never been like a school spirit person. Like I'm not that girl that like wears the pep rally t-shirts and is like at every homecoming game. I think like I just wanted to be a part of something. So I'd like hang out with my friends, but like for the most part I would just dip whenever I could. Not like skipping school every day. I think I was like a B student, but I was just like, I've always been focused on like creating and like not being stuck in a routine of like being somewhere at 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day, or like a 9 to 5, which is fine. Like there are people that need that structure, but I actually hate that structure, which is why I'm doing online. Yeah. Because I tried doing college.
Oh, so after you graduated high school, you went straight into college, or?
Yeah, so I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Which was crazy. But community college isn't like that hard, so it wasn't like I was stepping into something that I couldn't do.
Where was it?
Orange Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was fine, but as I got older, like 3 years in, I just like hated my like regular schedule. Like I was studying business, which I hate.
Yeah, well, actually, why didn't you decide to study something creative? Because you're such a creative person.
Thank you. So now I'm a graphic design major, but I started studying business because I was like, I don't know what college can offer me, so like I guess I could create a business, whether it's like something creative or what. But I also think that like a lot of people major in business when they don't know what to do. And I hate not knowing what to do, so I was like, I'm gonna be a business major, and then I hated it because it's very, I don't know, it kind of like sucked the creativity out of me.
Yeah.
And like I learned like a good amount, but I was that person that like switched their major after a semester. And now I'm like pretty happy with my major though.
And then you decided, like after 3 years, to do the online school. It's a different school now, or?
Yeah, so now I go to Arizona State online, and I took like 6 months off in between then because my family moved from Newport to Vegas, and I was like living with my mom at an Irvine apartment that she owned because she was like finishing up her clients. So like in that time period I started getting back into modeling again, and I left school for a while and then decided to go to online. And I'm still in online, and it's been 6 years in college total.
What made you want to study graphic design?
I was just looking at majors that I could do that would help my life now, and I like creating videos. I'm gonna be better at it this year, and I also am like imagining what I could use if my modeling or music career doesn't work out. Like what would I enjoy doing other than those two things? Because essentially like that degree is what I would fall back on if those don't work out. So in a sense, it's a safety plan along with the skill set. So yeah, so I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind being a graphic designer. Like I get to create for people, and everything is going digital anyways, that there is money in graphic design.
Did it not click to you to study music, or even like be a part of the music industry behind the scenes as like a writer or something?
I think like I'm pursuing music on the side, and I'm modeling, and I could learn separately about music, like study in my own time. But if I'm going to go to school, which I didn't and don't always want to do, that it might as well be in something where I know I could have like a safety net as far as like a job, where I feel like with music it's like hard to get a job in LA because it's so competitive. Like creative industries in LA and the cities are always competitive. The world is competitive. But I think like for me, I needed to think outside of music and modeling for college at least, so that I know I have something to fall back on.
Why decide to audition for The Voice?
I actually had this commercial manager at the time who would not leave me alone about it. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I hate those cattle call things where you feel like the smallest person ever. Like there are people like singing at the top of their lungs and they're all amazing. And there's like thousands of people. And I had like such bad anxiety back then. So it was like her constantly pushing me. And she was like, the worst that could happen is that you don't get it, you know, but like if you get it, you get it. And I was like, okay, fine. So it was really her that I have to thank for that situation.
And did you meet someone in Nashville for music early on?
Yes, yeah, so I was making YouTube covers around like age 16, just like Maroon 5 or like whatever was on the radio at the time. And she reached out to me over email and was like, hi, I'm a songwriter in Nashville and I would love to work with you. And I was like, oh, like, what do you charge? Like, I don't have any money, I'm 16. And then she's like, no, like, I don't want to charge you, I just like want to write with you. And I've never written a song at that point. And I was like, oh, awesome. So like, we started Skyping, and I wrote like my first 2 songs ever with her. And she kind of like, she started me on this journey of songwriting, because I kind of knew how to work in a structure, and like I knew formulas and the basics of songwriting, I guess, from my first Skype sessions.
And then how did you meet Olmos? Is that his name? How do you say it? Olmos?
Yeah, Olmos. Yeah. So Olmos and I met through SoundCloud when I was like 18 and I was in college, being miserable. I was looking at producers I could collab with, because I was still just like writing in my room, and like I never like had any music. So I was like, I need to work with producers so I can like get myself out there. So I was just like researching through SoundCloud, like smaller producers that I could reach out to and collab with. That's also how I found Sylo.
But actually early on you were like in the car with like Steve, and he said, but you have to reach some sort of like
so we were at my grandma's house in Newport actually in like 2014 or 15, and it was one of the songs that I wrote with that girl from Nashville. And I was like, listen to the song, because it was like the first thing I ever did ever. And he was like, oh, this is really good, you know, there's a ceiling where all the artists swim to, and when you get to the top of that ceiling, let me know and I'll help you break through it, because not everyone breaks through it, you know, only a few do. And I was like, okay, awesome. So like, knowing that, when I showed him my new music in like 2017, I wasn't expecting anything of him listening to it, and then he's like, oh yeah, let's put it on my label. And I was like, okay, like, where's the ceiling? But okay.
Where's the ceiling? Because that was like one of the first pieces you put out, right?
Yeah,
it was like on Spotify.
It was like automatic. Much. He was like, yeah, let's put it on my label. I was like, what? But awesome. Yeah. You know? And ever since then, he's just been like blindly supportive.
Has he helped you with the songwriting aspects, or?
No, but I meet a lot of people at his shows that I end up working with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just like smaller dim mak artists on his label, and like songwriters. And then he also will like critique my songs and like give me advice. So he doesn't help with like the actual music, but he'll be like, oh, this song needs a hook here, or you should take that out. I guess like that's like somewhat creatively impacting me.
Have you always grown up close to him, like with family gatherings and stuff?
No, because he was always 10 years younger than my mom. So he was living out his 20s when I was growing up. I think he was like still in college, and like he wasn't even DJing. He just like started his label and was throwing parties. And I think I lived in Maryland at the time. But then when I moved to California, like I started to know him better, because he lived in LA and was like an up-and-coming producer. And then it was like really like the last 5 years where we've gotten super close, and part of that was like my family moved to Vegas with him, so our houses are like next to each other. Like literally like on the same street. So we were, and I lived there for like 8 months before I moved here. So I would see him all the time and like take care of his house.
Have you done sessions with him?
I've been in sessions with him. I haven't done a session with him. But I'm sure in the future it would happen. Yeah, so just like living really close to him helped us get really close. And I think like I'm in my 20s now. I'm not like some like little high school twerp that's like, you should listen to my music. Yeah, so it's like easier to connect, obviously, as an adult.
Yeah. What was the inspiration behind Sincerely?
I think, I mean, it was my first project, so I just wanted to, Sincerely Me, the song, right?
Yeah.
Or the EP?
Oh, yeah, I mean both.
Both? Okay. Yeah. Because like originally the EP was called Sincerely, and then we changed it to Ego Boost last minute.
Okay.
The song inspiration for Sincerely was actually about me I was going to LA a lot from Orange County, and Orange County is like a completely different vibe. And I was meeting more industry people and like realizing that some people like only believe you can make it if you're kind of like bad to people and you like step on other people to get to the top. And I'm just like, gosh, I hope that I never become that person where I would give up parts of myself to make it, like be insincere and not care about other people just to make it. So I was just like really motivated by that, and I started writing like the first line, and then we just finished it like the next day. So that's really like stemmed from me seeing also like bad people around my uncle, being like, wow, like look at the difference between him and them. Like he's so genuine and nice, and like they're so sleazy. And it's a kind of like, which kind of person do you want to be? You know, like you don't have to sell yourself out to make it, or like to be inspirational or to inspire other people. So that was like my inspiration.
But what was it like writing about your best friend's relationship? Like, wasn't it like when he heard the song? You're a
great journalist. Oh my god. I mean, she's luckily enough really cool about it. She's still in that relationship.
Yeah. Because the way you talked about it, I was like, does Jina, like his family knows?
Yeah, like she showed it to him. And then he was like,
his ex-girlfriend. So like,
yeah, I know, it's like a big train of people that probably hate me. Yeah, so she showed it to him, and he was like, oh, that's like kind of cool. What if it ends up on the radio? And I'm like, you shouldn't be proud of like what you did.
That's a lot of his personal life.
Yeah, so I think like she was really cool about it, and it wasn't something I was nervous about.
Yeah,
it actually felt really good because I was so frustrated about her situation. And I'm like, oh, I can finally like get this off my chest. And then it ended up like being something that I could relate to. It's like, I don't know, we've all kind of been like a second priority to someone, you know, even in friendship.
Yeah. How about for Camouflage?
Camouflage was kind of, because a lot of these songs I've like had in an emotional capsule, so like I'll revisit the inspiration, or like I'll write them and then they'll be like kind of stuck on the shelf until we can release them. And with Camouflage, I wrote it a month ago or like 2 months ago, so it's been very fresh because it's kind of been like straight from the oven to the table. And I had to like look back on my life because I really wanted to write a song about like what I've been through for Women's Day. And it's about like me being Asian in an all-white area and not feeling like I fit in, and then me being bigger than everyone and not feeling like I fit in. And being Asian is like something I haven't touched on at all until like this past year.
What was the turning point for that?
I think seeing the lack of diversity in the modeling industry, as far as like Asians of different sizes and just like Asian people in general. Like even on the runway you see like 90% Asian, or oh my gosh.
What world do you live in?
In Japan. You see like 90% white people, and then you might see like 2 Asian girls, like 1 black girl, 1 Hispanic girl, but like the diversity is like not there. And so it kind of dawned on me that I have this responsibility to be representation for like young me's at home that never saw that growing up.
What does love mean to you?
Wow. You went in.
Yeah, I was like, I prepared you, then I was like, okay, love.
Love, I think it's, wow, this is like, what is the meaning of life, you know? I feel like love is, it's the reason why we're here, to love other people.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I've been around some like not kind people, not a lot of people that have love in their heart recently, and I noticed the difference in like how my energy feels when I leave them. And so I think like love is just like kindness. I feel like I'm reading like a storybook.
Oh no, I love this though.
Version of what love is. It's like not good at all.
No, I love this.
Yeah, I feel like love is like kindness and like positive energy and putting other people before yourself. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that is like humility. You know, it's like I love. Yeah, I don't know. What is love to you?
For me?
Yeah. Maybe I could bounce off of your answer. Be like, yeah, I agree.
I think always being there for someone, no matter if it's like family or friend, and them being there for you.
Yeah.
But like for the both to work is like some sort of synergy that's really, really rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's either like always
sure.
like one-sided sometimes.
Yes.
Or even like growing up, your parents always love you and you're like, oh, I can't stand, and like
yeah.
it takes a time that it becomes like
love
synergy.
can totally be one-sided, and I think it hurts so much when it is one-sided because it's vulnerable. Exactly. Like you're like opening up your heart and like this is me, like will you take it? And they're like no.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. They're like no, I'm like
yeah.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for?
Yeah.
Love. But really, like I love the quote like people will never remember what you said to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, I so go by that too.
Right? Like I want people to remember me by making them feel good and like leaving them refreshed and empowered, and because like kindness changes people's day. Like if you pay it forward at like Starbucks or something, you're just like, wow, like that's so nice, I want to do that. And it's kind of a chain. And then if someone's like so mean to you, you remember it and you're kind of in like a sulky mood. So like it's kind of a chain when you're kind or you're mean. But like whatever you give off, it's like gonna directly impact so many more people than you know. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love this. I'm a big fan.
Bye guys.
Bye.